As the Taliban regime tightens its grip over the people of Afghanistan, it's the women who are suffering catastrophically. They're treated like chattels, their human rights have been taken away, they're forced to wear full face coverings, and if they don't, their male guardians face imprisonment. Last night on Uncensored, I interviewed Taliban spokesperson Suhail Shaheen and challenged him on this. Mr. Shaheen, of course, denied it was happening.
99% of the Afghan women, they are observing hijab voluntarily. So they consider it a dignity, a safeguard for their modesty.
I asked him why teenage girls are still being banned from going to school.
We have never said they are banned. Girls have the right to have access to education as boys.
Yeah, except they're not allowed to go to school. So that's a nonsense. I then asked him if his own daughters went to school.
Of course, yes.
Yeah, of course.
In will.
Of course they do, because you're in Doha and they can go to school, right?
They are observing hijab. They are observing hijab. And so that means we have not denied.
Of course, one rule for his daughters, another rule for everybody else's daughters in Afghanistan. Well, joining me now, a former US ambassador to the United Nations, political consultant John Bolton, and chief foreign correspondent for the Sunday Times, Christina Lamb, who's in Ukraine. Well, welcome to both of you. Christina, let me start with you, because you spent so much time in Afghanistan. Interviewing the spokesman for the Taliban was pretty dispiriting last night, because I felt like he was spinning a completely bogus narrative about what is going on there. And it seems pretty clear to journalists who are on the ground that women are being taken right back to the sort of medieval dark ages of the previous Taliban rule.
Yeah, it is very dispiriting. It's like been one restriction after another, particularly in the last few months. And so women can't travel on their own. Women are not supposed to go out of their house on their own. We thought that girls were going to be able to go back to high school in March, and then they went that day and were sent straight back home, many of them in floods of tears. So it's been absolutely terrible for women and girls since the Taliban took over, and all of the hope at the beginning that this was a sort of different kind of Taliban somehow. I'm afraid now really doesn't look like that. And this latest restriction of the hijab, and in particular recommending that they should wear the burqa, is really the last nail in the coffin, I think.
Yeah, I mean, John Bolton, many people would say that the American sudden overnight withdrawal from Afghanistan basically handed the whole country back to the Taliban very quickly, allowed them to now suppress women all over again, and almost certainly emboldened Vladimir Putin to conclude that maybe Joe Biden wasn't up for the fight anymore, and that's why he invaded Ukraine. What do you think of that?
Well, I don't think it was simply the withdrawal last summer. I think in the Trump administration, critical mistakes were made, most particularly negotiating only with the Taliban about a potential U.S. and NATO withdrawal, not bringing in the government of Afghanistan. And I think President Trump was so eager to get out of the country that he didn't really care what he left behind. So no negotiations with the Taliban about human rights or women's rights, and no participation of the legitimate government of Afghanistan until the end, when they received basically a done deal from the U.S. On the way out. So I think the entire process of trying to cut a deal with a terrorist organization was a mistake from start to finish. What you're seeing now, tragically, I think was entirely predictable.
Yeah, Christina, you're now in Ukraine. It's obviously horrendous what's going on there. But there is a belief by many people that the Ukraine resistance is strong, and that there is a chance that Russia could actually lose this. What's your feeling on the ground there?
Yeah, I mean, the Ukraine resistance has been astonishing, really humbling. Everybody that you meet is so united in Ukraine, pretty much, in trying to drive out the Russians. But I'm in the east at the moment, and which is where the sort of second offensive is going on, and that's a little bit different. I mean, we know that Russia was kind of humiliated in trying to take Kyiv in the center of the country and was driven back. But here, the front line is much more static. It's sort of moving a few miles back and forth, and it, looks like it could. I was near the front line yesterday. It looks like it could go on for a very long time.
And John Bolton, what is your assessment of how America and Joe Biden in particular have handled the Ukraine crisis? And what do you make of the development today where Boris Johnson's basically said to Finland and Norway, if you come under attack from Russia, we'll be there for you, and they're obviously lined up now to join NATO. What do you think of NATO in all this and the way America has handled it?
Well, to start with Biden, I think the basic failure at work here is the failure to deter the Russian invasion to begin with. I mean, nobody can be happy, regardless of NATO's performance or the Ukrainian military's performance after the Russian invasion takes place, simply because we've supplied weapons and ammunition to the Ukrainians, or simply because we've imposed sanctions on Russia. That's not a happy situation. The objective here should have been deter Russia from invading in the first place, and that failed for a number of reasons: the lack of credibility of the administration, the lack of the gravity of the threats involved, and I think Putin's misapprehension of what he would find once he got inside Ukraine. But all those failures now, that's good for historical debate. The real question is, do we have staying power to continue this? There were press reports a few days ago, the president of Volkswagen, for example, saying it was time to negotiate a deal with the Russians. And you can count on the Kremlin believing that that's coming up, that the West as a whole will lose its resolve, and that he will be able to take the substantial territory he's gained, notwithstanding the colossal failures of the Russian military. Remember, this war is still being fought on Ukrainian territory. Ukraine's still being ground into dust, and Russian forces are still way ahead of where they were the night of February the 24th.
Christina, I don't want to let you go without congratulating you, because tonight it was announced you, the Society of Editors, you received an outstanding contribution to Journalism Awards. So congratulations on a well-deserved award. I've followed you for a long time. You're an outstandingly courageous journalist. And we've touched on today already that we saw another journalist killed today over in covering the Israel-Palestine conflict. We've seen journalists killed in the Ukraine as well. It's a dangerous time to be a foreign correspondent, isn't it?
But I think it's a really important time to be a foreign correspondent. I mean, actually, Ukraine, I think in a time of, lots of discussion of fake news and all of this, that actually shows the importance of journalism and being there and bringing back the stories. I mean, some of the atrocities that me and many of my colleagues have been reporting that the Russians have done, I think, it's horrendous. It's difficult for us to hear, far more difficult for the people to go through. It's difficult for people to read about or listen to, but it's really important that we document those things and bring to book the people that are doing these horrendous things, whether it's, raping, killing, blowing up schools and hospitals. People here say that the most dangerous place to hide now is in a school because the Russians keep bombing them.
Absolutely disgusting. Well, congratulations on the award. Well deserved. Keep up your great work out there. We need the truth, and it's people like you that bring it to us. And thanks also to you, John Bolton. I appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you.